Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, I am joined by Tara, and we are going to talk about Star Trek Picard, Season 1, Episode 3. It's called The End is the Beginning. As the end is the beginning.
Does it make you think of a Smashing Pumpkins song?
It does, it very much does. In particular, I like the I can't remember which. I think it's the one that's the beginning is the end is the beginning, which is the slower
I
media
know, because
version.
the other one's garbage, but this one, the one they use in the Watchmen
trailer
advertisement, is the best.
Yeah, which actually comes from the Batman and Robin soundtrack of all places, believe it or not. So,
thank you, Batman, Robin.
Yeah, hey, one good thing about that movie. Sorry, two good things. Arnold's one-liners also count as good. I will hear nothing else to the contrary. But yeah, so this is
nice to see you. I think that's McBain. I always confuse Arnold quotes with McBain's quotes from The Simpsons.
No, I think he does say "nice to see you."
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Yeah, I'm sure he says that.
Oh, maybe yeah.
He also says, "Winter is coming to Gotham," which is funny because I don't know if the first, Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones book was out yet, but if it wasn't, I think he was stealing from Batman and Robin.
I mean, if it's the rate at which George R. R. Martin writes the books, if we go back in time, that amount, then it should have been about 100 years before The Simpsons came out, when that book came out. So.
He's 172 years old and he's still writing those series.
He's magic.
So this very much was the end of a trio of episodes that ends with kind of the journey beginning, as it were. I mean, it literally ends with Picard saying engage as the ship,
and we hear the Next Gen theme song. Yeah.
Yes, or the motion picture theme song, if you want to put it that way, because that's where it comes from.
I bet a lot of Next Gen fans don't know that.
Do you know what's so funny to me though is that I saw the movies first, so when I first saw a Next Gen episode and it started playing, I went, "Oh, it's the motion picture theme." They're using the reason
that has a really great score, and it doesn't really get used in any of their films or anything.
No, the only time it comes back, annoyingly, is the opening credits of Star Trek V. It stuck out to me when it got there because I was
like, great movie.
Because everyone loves Wrath of Khan, and Wrath of Khan is a great movie, but my one big disappointment of that film is that the music is just not like what Jerry Goldsmith did.
No, well, they had to change everything because it just had such poor reception.
Yeah,
much like Star Trek Discovery, which wasn't for me. I liked that show a lot. I loved it, but yeah.
I'll stand by motion picture. I think motion picture is great.
I think so too.
Much better than Discovery Season 1 is, for the record. I'm someone who
I'd say they're about equal in my rating.
Because I would critique Discovery Season 1 heavily. Motion picture, though, I think is pretty great at being a movie version of what Star Trek is. The problem is that they decided that movies what Star Trek is couldn't be Star Trek anymore because it's not action-y enough. It's not as action-packed. Anyway, so Picard's seeing Raffi, and we get a flashback at the start. Actually, we're kind of continuing this trend of like having this attack on Mars by the synths as a framing device that starts each episode, and we get kind of the initial encounter after Picard has essentially made an ultimatum with the Federation and have accepted his resignation. They don't want to help the Romulans, and he proposed a plan to like not even use Federation ships, like get a bunch of like old mothballs and go out there with a crew of volunteers, and they shot him down. They didn't even want to do that. So I will say, like, I like this episode quite a bit. I think it plays a lot of big beats really well. I don't know if this flashback really contributed that much to things, because most of
it is pretty good seeing him in the uniform, the Admiral uniform that they've been showing off everywhere, and but I do also really like this episode. I think this episode gives a lot of Romulan lore, which, to be honest, I've watched all the series multiple times, and I don't really know that much about the Romulans. I don't know if it's just something I'm forgetting or what, but we get so much lore in this episode alone that I'm really digging what they're setting up here. And it's still just, I don't know what's going on. The whole show is still just a big mystery box for me. Like, I don't know where it's going.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I had some guesses last week, and I still think my Borg origin theories might come into play. But again, that's a bit of a stab in the dark as well. I mean, there's stuff in this episode that kind of implies it's going up elsewhere, so we'll sort of dig into that. But I thought the first scene, this flashback, didn't really actually offer much in the way, like, everything we hear in it is kind of just, I mean, it's expanded on a little bit, like hearing what he offered the Federation is a little bit of an expansion, but for the most part, it's just kind of okay.
It's our introduction to this new character, and like why she has some kind of consternation towards him.
Yeah.
Not that I think we needed it, because I think they kind of set up that, she's not in the Federation because of him.
Yeah, like I think what little we gained from this flashback was almost gained anyway from the dialogue later, so we could have just beefed that up a little bit and just had it like that, or given this something else. But when we come back to like their plot in present day, they're still out at the Rock, and she is pissed at him. He's like, I need a ship, I need a captain, and then eventually she storms off, and she's pissed because she not only is she pissed at him for being the reason why she's not in Starfleet, because she kind of backed his plays back in the day, but he's also not really contacted her in the last 14 years to see how she is. Not because of any duty reasons, just because, hey, we were friends, and you just kind of abandoned me and went to live in your fancy chateau, and I saw you on the news in an interview, and you were sitting in your big comfy chair surrounded by your vineyard and blah blah blah.
Is this strange to you though, like the way she talks about like you're an elitist and I'm not, but there's no money in Star Trek, so why can't Raffi have a chateau? I guess maybe not everybody on Earth can have a chateau because there's no room. So is there still like a class system?
Is it a lineage thing? Is he just inherited the chateau?
Well, it's definitely like something he gets from his brother, which may have been something their father owned. I can't remember, but his brother owned the chateau, and then stuff happens, and now it's Picard's. I'm not going to say too much.
Yeah, so this is Picard.
Well, you've seen the movies. You've seen Generations.
So this is Picard A, then his brother's Picard B, and then if we're going by blood types, then the third Picard will be Picardo. That was a bad joke. I'm sorry.
An EMH system?
It was a bad joke. Look, I had the Picardo joke in my head, and I wanted to do it. So
it was a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, it was a stretch. So
I'm curious. Like, she's accusing him of being like this elitist guy in his ivory tower, while she lives in her, I don't know, in future utopia trailer.
Yeah, she's in a trailer.
She lives in isolation, but that doesn't make a difference when you live in a world with transporters and like portals you can just walk through and go anywhere. So
yeah,
it's not like she's like in an inconvenient place to live. She just, she lives in a place that's
well, I think there
isolated.
is something to it, because when Picard arrived last episode, he arrived via taxi. He didn't like just teleport down. So I think, she's far away enough from like transporters and stuff that you have to take at least some physical transport out to her. No?
I mean, people beam down to planets all the time from orbit.
Then why did Picard take a taxi?
I don't know.
Can you not transport a bottle of wine in the transporter?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe Picard is like a little bit nervous now that he hears that they're actually secretly murder machines every time he gets transported.
Oh, sure, yeah, that's a good point. Is it like the Terminator, where they have to have the living flesh? Nothing dead can go through. Is that true with transporters, but only with liquids, with booze and? Oh.
Yeah, maybe it's like flying now. You can't have anything over 4 ounces in train of transport.
Or maybe this is really headcanon it, but you know how like the transporter is supposed to like basically kill any like common virus, like it's able to like take it away. What if it like detects the alcohol as a bad thing
because it's not synthahol?
Yeah, so it'll
immediately like gets rid of it.
It'll turn it to water. So Picard, in order to preserve the wine, the real wine that he is produced on his vineyard.
Yeah, fixed.
Yeah, there you
Totally
go.
fixed.
He had to take a taxi.
There's still the whole class system thing I'm not really understanding, but like,
Okay, I can't answer
okay.
everything, Tara. I can only answer one thing at a time, okay?
We'll work on it, all right? And come back with your thesis next week.
Yes, okay. Right, next week. Why is there a class system? Okay, so he goes back to the house.
Wait.
Oh,
Before we leave off the scene, what'd you think of the vape pen?
I did think it was a bit weird that they wanted to have someone vaping in Star Trek. That was a little bit odd.
And we get a cigar later.
It's kind of like an F-bomb from last week.
It really feels out of place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that they wouldn't have, drugs in the future. And we see it, on alien planets all the time. But it feels a bit out of place here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I understand she has her vices. There's still alcohol, clearly, in Star Trek. So
And there always was.
why not?
That was always a thing in all the other series, is they had alcohol. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the cigar stuck out less. And maybe it's just because we've seen them have cigars and stuff.
They're going for an attitude, for a look.
Yeah, but no, but even in the next gen, we've seen them like have cigars and stuff in the holodeck, so it's not that like out of realm, But it is different. It is weird. No, I'll give you
weird.
it. It is weird. And then he goes. I don't know if he goes back home first. Maybe he does. But anyway, he goes up to the ship. He goes up. Because at one point we cut back to her, and even though she says she doesn't care, she's not going to look through it, and she's clearly sitting going through all the files and like researching. And Picard
can't help a good mystery.
Picard calls her and is like, "Hey, I'm sure you're doing the reading." He's like, "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are. Here's all the other files on Maddox. Here you go." And he just hangs up and leaves.
I do like this new character, actually. And I'll say, fantastic hair. So jealous. Hair goals.
Sure.
She has great hair.
No, I like how she's like, I'm not taking shit from you, Picard attitude. It's just very, it's kind of like almost a. No, it's not. I was going to say it's kind of like a heightened Beverly Crusher, but even she wasn't like that. But like, it's almost like I could see Beverly Crusher becoming this, like if she gets comfortable enough to like just backtalk him. Actually, Judge, what she is? She's Picard's bones.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That makes more sense.
I can see her yelling, "Damn it, Jean!" Or not Jean. She says JL.
JL.
She calls him JL. And all I mean,
that's how you know they're close.
I know I'm such a nerd, but like all I could think was Justice League every time she said it.
Nerd.
All I could think was Justice League. We're talking about Star Trek. Comic books.
I'm allowed to judge.
Comic books are more mainstream than Star Trek's ever been, and you know it now. You know it.
I know.
Oh dear. Oh, what a freeze frame. That's beautiful.
I'll make that my thumbnail from now on.
I'm going to cut that out and put it on the thumbnail, yeah. I'm going to have me all like, yeah, thumbs up. And then you and the others. So, anyway. Yeah, so he beams up to the ship and meets Rios, who's got like a hologram version of himself as well, who's a bit more of a control freak, whereas the real Rios is, he's got a cigar, he's got like a bit of shrapnel on his shoulder, and he's kind of dealing with
Where does this shrapnel come from?
They never explain what was happening that he ended up with shrapnel.
By himself on the ship. Did he stab himself? I mean, people get in accidents all the time on the holodeck. Does the ship have a holodeck? I'm so confused by this.
I don't think the ship has a holodeck. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this little ship. I'll tell you a great touch here, because when he comes on board, and Rios, after a couple of lines, says, "Hey, take a seat." And Picard almost sits in the captain's chair. He just kind of looks at it, and then he says, No, that's not right. And he walks over to the other pilot's chair or whatever, and they just have a conversation, and he's asking, Rios is asking, okay, what are we doing? Is this illegal? Is this going to be dangerous? And Picard, makes a little speech about, well, I never know, when the time is time is right to do the thing, to do the right thing, I'll know it and we'll do it, and that's how I've always functioned. And he's like, yeah, she told me you were a bit of a speech maker. So honestly, he seems likable enough and different. He has a scene on his own.
I like that he has a crew of holograms that are just him.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
took me a second. I'm like, do they just cast people who look alike? Oh no, no, it's actually just him.
It's just him, yeah. And he's got a scene on his own as well where the hologram's kind of giving him shit and
Well, it's a different hologram. So he has a that's the emergency, and we first meet the EMH, which is the emergency medical hologram,
mhm.
which was first introduced in Star Trek Voyager, played by Robert Picardo,
Yes.
which he tried to make a joke about, and was successful.
to
Medium successful.
try to make a joke about the sheer effing hubris of this woman.
I said you had medium success.
Oh, so thank you so much.
Welcome. It's the best I can do.
It's what every man wants to hear.
Anyway, yeah, but when we meet this second hologram, he's like what does he call him? Like emergency navigation hologram or something, and the guy's got like some accent. I don't know what he is.
He's more eccentric.
Yeah, he's a different personality, and it's just so odd that he has like this emergency crew, which are all holograms, which makes sense. Like, why not just make an emergency navigator, an emergency medical officer, an emergency engineer, assumingly, I don't know.
Yeah, it's good because basically this scene's the hologram's like, hey, don't you know who that was? That was Jean-Luc Picard. He served on 2 enterprises. He's done this. He's done that. He's this,
Yeah.
renowned figure. So obviously, like, you have to get the feeling that by the end of the season or the show, like, all these like ragtag crew members are going to really believe in Picard, and it's going to be this, journey of like really understanding what it means to have a purpose and all that jazz. Especially for him, because he seems like a guy who doesn't have a purpose.
Plus, all these crew members that we're meeting here all have their own like vices that they're going through. Like, everybody's got a thing, Like Raffi is, has like literal vices of alcohol and drugs that she's using in the beginning. Yeah, she has no purpose right now.
And she shows up on the ship at the end, and she's going to where Maddox is, and we'll talk about.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. We'll see if we get Maddox.
And this other guy we meet, I don't know his name yet, the captain. He has Picard looks at the ship. He's like, I know what this ship looks like. It looks like you were in Starfleet, because everything is meticulous and clean, and that is not a like freighter pilot. That's a Starfleet officer, how they would keep their ship. And so he has history that we don't know about, and he clearly likes to be alone because he has a ship crew that's just hologram images of himself, so he doesn't trust other people.
These are all valid points. They're all good little character details that I think are great to point out. Do you know what it reminds me of, actually? It's a little bit like Firefly, just a little bit. In that he had a
Firefly
purpose.
doesn't remind you of Star Trek?
How dare you? No, he had this purpose, right? Where Picard clearly says, "No, you used to be devoted to Starfleet. I can tell you used to be an officer." And no, now he's this ragtag guy who's just kind of on his own, who makes money. He just charges for flights for whoever needs him, and it's very kind of Malcolm Reynolds.
Kind of Han Solo-ish.
Don't you?
I see what you're saying with Han Solo.
Don't you dare to compare this to Star Wars. And Malcolm Reynolds lost his purpose, and he got his ship, and he found a new purpose, and that was as much of his story. And I feel like we're going to get some of the things. Oh, and by the way, while we're on the subject, Firefly was created by Joss Whedon, who also created the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So
he's the brother of Josh Whedon, right? Because I've heard about him.
Give me strength. You enjoy that far too much. So some good character bits there. And obviously also ends up coming as Dr. Agnes Jurati, who obviously enters the fray because she's actually questioned by Commodore yeah. And
who wears sunglasses.
Like
a Bond villain.
And I actually have to give Tara some props here, because it turns out that as far as Picard's aware, she is Vulcan. So fair play. You said she was Vulcan last week, and I said that dialogue didn't make it sound like that. But fair play. She's a Vulcan.
Well, she might be Romulan disguised.
Yeah, okay.
Vulcan.
She okay. What I meant is that I didn't think she was in disguise because of the way their dialogue was. But no, clearly Starfleet thinks she's Vulcan. So
yeah.
So fair play.
I really don't think Starfleet would allow Romulans in Starfleet.
Yeah, Romulan scum.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are.
But
Can't
of course,
trust them. Too sneaky. They have secrets to their secrets.
but because she comes to question her about
They
Picard,
have a front door in their house.
she comes to question her about Picard, and sure enough, as Picard's prepping, he's saying goodbye to his Romulan buddies, and they're giving him like food. Actually, I do have one little technical complaint here. So there's a gunshot from outside, a phaser blast from one of the what's the Romulan group?
Oh, the Jat Vaj.
Oh, no, I remember that. I meant the one that you already knew from the other shows.
Oh, the Tal Shiar.
Thank you, Tal Shiar. I remember Zat Vash. Trust me, all I have to remember is that Vaj, and I remember.
Yeah, so I was so quick.
Zat Vash. Zat Vash.
Zat Vash.
What? I'm just trying to think of like a police lineup now, and I don't know what the question is, but just the person going Zat Vash, Zat Vash. It's that one.
It sounds okay when they say it. It's only when we say it where it sounds obscene.
Yeah, it's only because we said it like 5 times in a row, and after a while it just started to sound different. But yes, I don't know what the Virginia did to this person who's shouting out that Vag, but traumatized them surely. Anyway, so they get attacked, but there's a little technical thing here for me where after the first shot they kind of duck down, and like within a split, it's just there's just not enough time before someone says this, but someone says, oh, the shot came from outside, but it's almost like they don't even have time to like, I don't know, like even like it's so quick from just ducking from this shot that they didn't know was coming to the shot came from outside. It's almost as if they knew it was about to happen, and they didn't. But it's a really weird edit there for me. But it's a little thing. It's not a big deal, but
yeah, I don't know. For me, they like immediately triggered into the Tal Shiar mode, and it was just like, it didn't really bother me. I did notice it was fast also, but I thought that was just like an asset. I mean, like, they're done being, wine enthusiast, and all of a sudden they're back to being Tal Shiar.
I think there's a way to do that without the edit feeling jarring. You can have it do it without that. But
I do really like this fight though.
Oh yeah, the fight itself is fine. Poor Picard. I mean, credit to the stuntman who had to go over the desk when Picard got hit over it. I was like, man, he's like 80 years old. What are you doing?
Maybe it's just Will Wheaton in like a ball cap.
Well, they're going to bring Wesley Crusher back. They might as well use him somehow. But yeah, he gets but of course the two Romulans are able to take care of business, and they actually take they
I love how they like John Wick the place up with just guns everywhere.
Yeah,
and Picard knows where they are too, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, so yeah, they kill most of them. One's left alive. There is one at the door that gets shot down by Jurati, Dr. Jurati. So you see the blast, then she comes in, she's kind of shaking, and she's like, okay, I knew they were coming here because I was questioned, and I want to come see you. Also, I want to come with you on the trip, wherever you're going. I'm the best expert you've got at since from Earth, and
she's clearly drawn into this mission because she's so fascinated by these sister characters, these twins, that she, like, to her they're like the ultimate goal of what she wants to accomplish. So she needs to see it if it's real.
Yeah, totally.
It's almost like a religious experience for her. It's almost spiritual is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I'm fairly certain as well that Raphael somehow end up sticking around with them. So I feel like this crew of 4 that we have now is probably going to stick, I would think.
Yeah. Are you kind of bummed that the 2 Romulans aren't going to be on board? Because I really like these characters.
Yeah, I thought it was
all the new characters. They're definitely the best.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird that they weren't going to go. I thought maybe after this scene they were going to come because, clearly this house isn't safe anymore because they're going to just keep sending more Romulans after us. And maybe that's a good reason to go with Picard on the ship. But nah, they don't bother.
No, they're going to look over the place.
But okay.
That's sad. I hope we get more of them though, because I genuinely really like these characters a lot. They're really cool, and I like the way they interact with Picard. They have kind of an interesting relationship with him, and they feel like a married couple the way they talk to each other. And
yeah, because they interrogate the one who's still alive, the Romulan, and he refuses to answer or whatever, and she says, "Oh, of course he's stubborn. He's from the north, like you."
Yeah, I think that was a way to like explain because they have similar foreheads.
Mm.
Like, that's why it's a regional thing. They look different because of regions.
Hey, it would make sense, and that's how you explain different looking Klingons as well. Like, yeah, of course, there's variations. Like it's actually kind of silly to think that absolutely every single living, human or whatever species we're talking about, looks the same from a planet. Like humans don't look the same. We've got a bunch of differences all over.
Yeah,
that's
true.
We got different races. We got completely different hairs, and so on.
We see multiple different races of Romulans in this. I don't think I've ever seen a black Romulan before. Like we've seen black Vulcans, but not Romulans. That was like a nice surprise.
That's the reason why we can't have black Romulans.
There's no reason why there shouldn't be.
Yeah. So they use the music again. I mean, we mentioned obviously the next gen theme at the end, but the Star Trek theme when he first beams up to the ship for the first time, and he's sort of looking around like, "Oh, I'm on a ship again." He's like, "Da na 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 na." And that's the next gen theme.
It's trying to tease you. It happens a couple of times.
Yeah, and then it finally plays to the end at the end of the episode after he says engage, and of course the camera kind of comes into him, tracks in as he sort of like smiles, holds up his hand, he's like, engage. And I'm like, okay, yes. I was expecting.
And you get like an outside shot of the ship like going over around a planet. It's Earth, but like that's still kind of nice.
I was expecting him to sit in the chair by the end, but they're saving that. They're saving that moment where he sits in the chair.
Do you think it'll be the finale? That seems kind of late.
I don't know. I mean, they've got one story to tell over 3 seasons, so I mean, who knows where we are, at that point in the story.
Oh, you think it would be the series finale?
No. I just mean like if that's only third way through the story, it's not really that late, comparatively speaking. If it's the end of the season, I mean. So I could see it do something like that. So no, all the Picard stuff. The Romulan we're interrogating. He like spits up the acid stuff and he melts away.
Yeah, we get the acid again. What a bizarre little like pill.
Like why use
capsule that they take?
Why use a cyanide pill when you can
spray poison onto your enemy that will instantly melt them?
I think you'll find it's boiling acid.
It's self-cleaning though. That's kind of nice. You don't have to do anything with the body. Have we somehow referenced both Batman and Robin and Batman Forever in the space of this review? Because that was a Batman Forever reference for anyone who didn't get it. That's why people watch us. All 8 of them.
I don't want to be known for the Joel Schumacher Batman references. I want to be known for that.
All right, everybody, chill.
Can we quote other things, please? I'll never say it again.
We had the Richter joke.
We did.
Did we? Okay, yeah. I was trying to think if that was the other thing we recorded.
Yes, this is the problem. You record 2 things back to back.
See you at the party, Richter.
So, yeah, the other stuff then in the episode is, of course, on the cube, on the Borg cube. We have Soji, who is talking to a character who I didn't know until after, just before we started recording. Tara happened to casually mention that this ex-Borg guy who's... Because I when he first walked out of the scene, I was like, wait, he's got a couple of little metal things, and I noticed his eyes. Oh, that eye's been fake as well. I'm like, oh, he used to be Borg. Yeah. He was part of the collective, and he's been freed. So this is a character called Hugh. Yeah, that you were telling me about. So he's kind of in charge here?
Yeah, he's from season 6, maybe 5. I don't know. I always say 5 because everything seems to happen in 5 that's like linked to the show. But it's a really interesting episode about the Enterprise like finds a Borg that's still alive, and they're using him kind of as an experiment to see if they could like plant a virus into the Borg, or but Geordi's working with them a lot, so it becomes more about, well, we could do that, but now that I know him as a human and a person, and we've even started calling him Hugh. And Picard's like, you've given him a name? Like, never give it a name. And anyway, and it's a really interesting episode about like well, do we do this to save humanity, possibly from the Borg, or do we save a life, a human life here that we know we can do? And it's they end up, taking some twisted turns, but that's like ultimately what the main problem of the show is, if you will. But it's yeah, I think, and he comes back later, I think in season 7 as like a follow-up. Though I don't really remember exactly what the storyline for that one is. And anyway, I knew he was going to be in this series because he had been like part of like the tour and stuff. They're like, oh, we're bringing back this character, and that's why with him and Seven of Nine coming back sometime in the show, like I just thought this was going to be a Borg-centered series, which would make sense since we're following Picard and he has such history with them. But yeah, it's exciting to see him. I don't know if he does any like other acting, but he's not an actor I'm familiar with other than the one episode of Star Trek.
Yeah, so Soji's like wanting to see this Romulan ex-Borg, called, I think it was Randa or Ramda, sorry, by the name Ramda, and this I mean, I say he's in charge of it, that's maybe not quite accurate, but he's high up in the chain to grant permission for this meeting, and he does so because when he's reviewing footage of her doing the operation from before, she kind of calms the person by talking in their native language. I don't know if it was a Romulan or Vulcan or whatever it was, but and he's like, okay, so I'm gonna let you see her, and we get some interesting bits of mythology sprinkled in here, and in the meeting with Ramba, where it's almost like a psych ward in like a mental hospital she goes into, and like she's sitting there and she's playing with these triangles that are kind of like almost like tarot cards or something like that. Where she's putting them out, and she seems to respond to Soji a little bit, and this is kind of happening with the interrogation of the Romulan in Picard's chateau at the same time. And it's kind of building up to this like teasing of what she is and what her and her sister were, and the cards even say one will live and one will die, and this makes Soji after this scene like call her mother and be like, hey, is my sister okay, like is she fine, because and her mother, who's clearly not real, is like, yeah, she's fine. I just spoke to her today.
The mother is definitely fake.
Yeah. And it teases this thing that she is the destroyer, like because we were like, Romulans seem to think that Data's daughter, for whatever reason, is going to be the destroyer of, I don't know, civilization, of the universe, whatever you want to call it. And that stuff's interesting. It's definitely an extra layer on, because obviously my interest, I love the Borg stuff, and I love this idea of like exploring, because part of the mythology we get here from this interview is that to the Borg, like, ancient mythology, because she says she doesn't like that word mythology, is that it's news is the right word, because it's all current, because everything's sort of been thought processed together at the same time. I thought that was an interesting little bit of Borg detail.
I liked all the stuff we got from Hugh also about the Romulans, because Hugh was a Borg, so he knows everything that the Borg did, and he says these are the only Romulans that have ever been assimilated, like as far as I know. And it's like 8 of them in a room, and they all have some kind of like they're not back to being Romulans just because they had the Borg technology removed. There's something clearly wrong with all of them.
Which is this? Do you think this is something to do with the fact that Romulans have this fear of tech and synthetic, and them being integrated and assimilated with the Borg and then coming back? It's messed them up in a way that maybe the humans.
He also says, I think they're implying that because the Borg assimilated them, that's how this Borg cube like became basically dead and abandoned by the Borg, because there was something triggered, like once they assimilated the Romulans, that caused them to be like, nope, cut it off at the wrist and just leave it to die. And
that's their theory, at least, which is solid, to be honest. Like, it's not a bad theory that they have, but not proven yet. Like, we might actually end up with more to it than that. But like, that definitely seems what it is just now. Is that like something to do with the Romulans just wasn't compatible with Borg, and
it's fascinating.
And it's interesting that all of these Borg all these Romulans who were Borg, like all of them kind of react when when Randa starts acting out and yelling that you're the destroyer. Like, they all start kind of having this tick, and they all start staring at her. Like, it really feels like they're all kind of like, they can all sense that there's something wrong with her. They all sense that she's different. Soji, that is. So I'm intrigued by that. Like, is she the destroyer of the Borg? Is that as simple as it is? So to them it feels bad, but it's not actually a bad thing. But then again, why would the Zapvash not want that to happen? Why would they be against the Borg being destroyed? So I guess that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what they're scared of. I don't know. Does this go back into the theory of? I mean, we kind of poo-pooed this last week, but the idea that either the Romulans or the Vulcans, like one of them has tech, like as part of them. Although we were speculating it was the Vulcans because the Romulans are the ones who are against synthetics, but I mean, the fact that the Borg tech didn't like them very much might suggest otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I don't think there is a whole lot of history about the Romulans out there, so it could have been that they, created artificial life, and that became a cautionary tale to them, to where they had to like cut things off, and maybe it was the Borg. Maybe it was long enough ago where they had to like send the Borg out to the Delta Quadrant, and then they just grew like an invasive species out there.
Let's assume that this is the case, right? And they accidentally created the Borg. If that's assuming that's true, what about then assimilating Romulans would cause the reaction that it seems to have caused?
It would have to be like the Romulans have put something in their DNA, or that would be like an antidote to technology.
Maybe, yeah. Because presumably, well, that's the thing. If these are the only Romulans that have ever been assimilated, then how did it start? Because presumably, when they created the Borg by accident, they must have assimilated someone, unless they created the central sort of like intelligence of it, and then the Borg assimilated something else.
I mean, I thought that Discovery Season 2 was kind of going down this angle, and they, like, we brought this up last time. It was definitely trying to like give you that red herring that, oh, maybe the Federation created the Borg just by creating the technology, and then sending that eventually that technology just kind of grew into what would become the Borg on its own, or just as a means of survival, just going from host to host and then growing from there.
I do kind of love that we're dealing with clearly with the origins of the Borg and this secret past of the Romulans. Like, and I think because we're dealing with both of those things, I do think they're going to be at least thematically connected, if not actually connected in some way. Whether that's because they...
I would be fine with both.
Yeah.
Like, I like the Borg as this mysterious thing that's like so far out in the galaxy that, was some ancient alien race created them, and then they just overwhelmed them and became something else because of this mistake they made. But I mean, if they want to make it tied to the Romulans and they make a good story out of it, I'm fine with that too.
But likewise, it could just as easily be, and perhaps more likely be, that no, the Romulans' backstory has nothing to do with the Borg. But the reason why the Borg are such a big part of the show is that because this new discovery that the Romulans are like toxic to the Borg is going to kind of like reveal or show what the secret about the Romulans is. Like, that's going to lead to the truth, and that's why the Borg are a part of this. So I could see that being a case. And then thematically, the fact that we're dealing with the idea of like synths who have went rogue, and the Borg are kind of synths in a way, although they're obviously adapting life. And then you have, of course, Soji, who is this life form who is completely synthetic but looks and sounds human, and should synthetic life be treated as real life, and does it have do they have feelings and stuff? And clearly Soji does. Like, I mean, it's pretty apparent.
Yeah.
But so thematically, the idea of like the Romulan sphere of synthetics and how that's kind of spread to the Federation because of what happened in Mars. And possibly because of infiltration that they're unaware of Romulans in the Federation. There's this idea of spreading xenophobia and like kind of like battling that. Like, I think the overall, Star Trek typically, at least per episode, would have some sort of message. And I feel like if I'm looking for a message right here, right now, it's that, the idea of synths representing, pick your disenfranchised group, pick any minority, pick all the minorities, whatever you want to, go with.
People we don't quite, we pretend to think are people, but like we always sort of look down on them. And that's like the like the royal we, not like me personally.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
I certainly don't try to.
So I think it's done some interesting stuff. There's definitely some little quirks here or there, and it's, you know, production. There's a moment towards the end actually where Narek comes to see Soji, and he gives her this whisper about how he's fallen in love with her and whatever, and it's blah de blah. It's the worst scene of the episode because I just don't give a shit about Narek. I just, so far I don't like his
They
stuff.
better make his character like be worth it, because I'm not into it.
Luckily, he has very little screen time in this, but he has a scene after this as well with his sister, because his sister, who's got her ears back, shows up, and I started laughing at one point. Just there's this extreme Dutch angle with this big red fan or light behind them, and it felt so like, look, they're the evil characters in an evil part of the ship.
Evil.
Yeah.
And I know we've brought up the music in this episode because it brings up the original theme. But I have to say, I don't really love the music in the show. Like it's sometimes very distracting, or it feels too much like a CW show or something.
I could say that. I have a complaint about this and Discovery when it comes to their main title themes, because this is the thing: Star Trek Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, right? All have great opening and title themes, regardless of what you think of the shows.
One. It's been a long road.
That's not score. That's just a song, right? No, we're talking about score, right? Piece of music that's actually written for the even though Next Gens came from the movie, but still, that was written for a main thing, right? All these things have great scores, right? And I feel like Discovery and now Picard, so it's now 2 for 2 in the CBS All Access like era of Star Trek shows, is they feel so overproduced and like they want it to be this sweeping orchestral thing, but they've removed the simplicity, because this is the thing: both Discovery and Picard's main title things do the exact same thing at the end, where it's all new music like 90% of the way through, and then right at the very end. Like end of Discovery, it's the Star Trek theme. End of Picard, right? But at the end of Picard, it's the Next Gen theme. It's just a little bit of that comes in at the end.
Yeah, I don't mind the main theme so much. Actually, the Discovery one really grew on me by the end, because I used to skip the intro, and then I'm like, no, I like the like it's actually kind of catchy. I mean, it grew on me.
No, I agree. Kind of grew on me over time, over 2 seasons. Picard still feels really like they really want that prestige cable opening title sequence with all these things happening as titles come up. And it feels a bit overdone, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I guess, yeah. I couldn't tell you what the theme is for Picard yet. Like it doesn't stick with me.
Yep,
but you're right. I do like the little flair at the end though, because they use the little flute for the.
I think so, yeah.
And that is a nice callback to a very important episode for Picard that happens, and it's so it is kind of nice to hear that. I wish that they would use the flute more as a theme, because it is like an important musical instrument, and I don't really want to say too much, but like.
I can't wait to find out why a flute's so important. Now, this is the amount of times this just came up. This is the importance of the flute when it comes to Picard.
It really is. Like, yeah, it's definitely top tier of Trek episodes. It's my favorite of like Picard centered episode, and it's so sci-fi. Oh my god, you're gonna love
it. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
It's good.
I just finished season.
It's called The Inner Light, and I think it's season 5. And sure. I know I always say that, but season 5 is a strong season.
Well, we just finished season 2. We're doing our top 5 of season 2 Next Gen this coming week. For those of you who don't know, me and Cora are working our way through the old Star Trek stuff. Did all the original series. We just finished season 2 of Next Gen. So we'll be doing our top 5 of season 2 before we move on to start season 3. And I'm excited because season 3, from everything I hear, is where things really start to get good.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's great episodes in seasons 1 and 2, but and there's still some stinkers that will be in every season.
But there's 2 is definitely better than 1 though, because 2, I mean, Measure of a Man and Q Who are 2 fantastic episodes. Season 1 has nothing that touches those 2.
And the one where like the foreign exchange student one with Riker on the.
Oh yeah, that one's pretty good as well. Yeah, yeah. But no, good stuff. So no, that was pretty much it. I mean, because this is the other thing. This scene at the end with the brother and sister Romulans was just the same. Like, your way better work. The subtle way. Yeah, you messed up on Earth. It was the same bickering. I mean, this is only the second time I've seen these two talk to each other, and I'm already sick of it. Like, I don't like these two characters.
And he stands there and she walks in circles around him and stuff, and looks down and talks down at him, and yeah. You're gonna fall in love. Don't fall in love.
It's so just by the numbers, ho hum, like every generic crappy villain.
Why do we need a love story in this show? I don't know.
Yeah, we really don't. Picard's got his dog. That can be all the love story we need.
Aw, yeah.
Number one.
Number one wasn't in this episode.
No, he wasn't. No. He was referenced though. Yeah. Hey, we know we're getting Riker at some point in this season, so the real number one.
He's a terrible guard dog, apparently. Just lets Romulans in.
What if the Romulans like took out the guard dog on the way in, so they wouldn't know they were coming?
Number one, no.
I'm sorry I said that. I had no reason to say such a dark and clearly wrong thing.
They can't. The number one's on all the posters.
You should have brought number one on the ship, actually. Why not?
Why not? Yeah. Captain Archer had a dog, Porthos.
Sure. What show's that in?
Enterprise.
Okay.
Scott Bakula had a little beagle named Porthos.
Bakula. How many Dracula jokes do you think he got in school?
I don't know. Maybe that's what gave him the theater bug.
Maybe, yeah. Just I can see the poster right now. Scott Bakula as Dracula. Oh dear, must be a hit. All right, that pretty much does it for episode 3 of Star Trek Picard. I actually, despite my critiques of a couple of things, especially those villainous characters that I really don't like, by far my least favorite thing on the show. Because it's a shame because it kind of brings down Soji a little bit. Even though everything with Soji's doing with the Borg, I really like.
I like that she's part of this like alien prophecy thing. I want to see more. And she's linked to Data. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I like her storyline. I just don't like this whole Romulan Eddie Redmayne guy. Like,
yep, or his sister.
Yeah.
Yep. But I do, obviously I like all the stuff with Picard pretty much, and the assembling of the crew and the ship and all the Borg stuff, and the fact that we're digging into Romulan history, I like as well. So I think this is probably my favorite of the 3 episodes overall, even with my nitpicks.
Yeah, the first one was pretty good though. I like this one had more action too, like the first one, and we got the boiling acid again.
It's boiling acid.
Thank you.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I agree. I like this one. I like this one because we got a lot more of the lore and the mystery, and it's still a puzzle that I have no idea where it's going.
Yeah.
I think Discovery had a lot of fan theories early on that ended up being right, which was unfortunate. And this one, I'm staying away from them, so I don't know what people are saying.
Just the ones we concoct on our own.
Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe people already have it nailed down, but I'm totally at a loss of where it's going to go.
This is all a ploy. This is all a revenge story from Wesley Crusher. Wesley Crusher is a megalomaniac behind the scenes, pulling all the strings.
He could be.
Book it.
You don't know his storyline.
I don't. All I know is that when it comes to the ladies, Wesley Crusher is in complete control.
That's right. Have you seen that episode where he you get an older Wesley Crusher and he's got this chiseled jaw? He looks straight out of a 50s Superman comic.
Oh, not yet, no. I don't think that's happened yet.
Oh, wow, that boy grows up to be such a handsome man.
And we all know what Will Wheaton looks like.
He looks fine. He just doesn't look like
Superman.
Superboy.
All right. Well, that has been episode 3 of Picard. So, of course, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Ding the bell for notifications if you're on YouTube. All those things help us, as does, of course, rating the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars and a little review. Helps us out a lot. More people will find us that way. Gets us up the rankings. Come on. I was actually checking what ranking the Almost Cancelled podcast was at just earlier today. And I was like, yeah, we need to go up the rankings. So yes, you also support us financially, of course. Tara, how can they do that?
You can check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MalifuzTV, and donating as little as $1 per month will get you bonus episodes of other shows we do. We do the ACE, the Atomic Cinema Experiment, which is our science fiction movie show. Pete and Tim do a horror movie show called Screams After Midnight, and you can get all the B movies to your heart's content from both podcasts. So check it out.
Yes. I've got Firefly up on my shoulder. This is my number one. Nah, he's not number one. Firefly is more like the Chekhov, I think.
The latecomer.
Yeah, he's actually first, but just in the way that he's probably the most goofiest. You know, he's the one that you're a little bit embarrassed about sometimes. Whenever he starts talking about vodka or in Mother Russia,
vodka?
Vodka. Nuclear whistles. No, Wesker's definitely number one. Garrus is the wild card, so I'm going to say he's Spock, and then Firefly is
Data.
I'm tempted to say Red Shirt, but that's a bit cruel on the Firefly.
Oh.
Yeah, you're more than that. You're more than a Red Shirt. Anyway, so that is us. That has been Star Trek Picard episode 3. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. I feel like this one should have its own little outro, because all the other Star Trek shows I've done have had one, but
You can still use it. To everyone but Connor.
Well, let's see, I've changed though. I've switched to the Wesley one now on Next Gen.
Oh, yeah.
I've transitioned. But you're right, yes, to everyone but Connor, live long and prosper.